legends, I hope you're all amazing. On today's video, we're checking out the new Fractal Audio Icons plugin, which is called Icons Pasadena. Not only do you have a very comprehensive selection of 5150 style flavored amps, you've got some FAS originals and an amazing 100-watt Plexi, plus a whole suite of effects. You've got various drives from classic fuzzes, boosts, and clipping style overdrives. You've got a flanger block, a phaser block, several delay types, a chorus, which includes the amazing Dimension chorus, some dual detune, and several glorious sounding fractal reverbs. Just like the previous Icons plugin, there is a curated selection of fractal Dynacabs. There's multiple 2x12 and 4x12 cabinets with different speakers, along with multiple microphone choices that you can manipulate using this 2D graph. And you can blend up to 2 different Dynacabs in a single preset. You can also load up to 2 user IRs in a single preset. That is a lot of information to digest, so let's hear this thing in a very quick mix. This is a sample of the Ragdoll song Letting Go. Then we'll dive into the specifics. We'll hear some raw amp and cab tones. We'll jump into the effects. I'll show you how I like to use this, and we'll also hear some clean and classic tones out of this. Let's go. Let's start out with the 6160 block lead. I've just dialed it in with the basic tab. I've got my free cab IR in the cab block and a touch of large plate reverb. We will, of course, hear some of the included Dynacabs in just a second, but for now, with my Les Paul Custom. Got the chungus, that is for sure. Let's check out some of the included Dynacabs really quickly. You have a 2x12 Stealth and Tone cabinet, and then a 5153 Stealth, Citrus, Friedman Greenback, Friedman V30, and Recto Slant cabinet. I know the tradition would be to start with the matching cabinet in here, but I really like this 4x12 Recto Slant cab. Just with the Dynamic 57, it's going to do this. have multiple cabs, you have a very generous selection of mics, multiple condensers, dynamic and ribbon mics. And of course you have 2 cab slots in here. So you could do something like this. We'll take the Dynamic 57 off-axis position on this 4x12 recto slant. I really like the sound of this citrus cab as well. We're gonna use a different mic though. I've got the ribbon 121, position and distance are 0, so it's bang in the middle. I can use this blend control to control the relative level of each cab. Let's start out with maximum off-axis 57, and I'll blend in some of that 121 on the citrus cab. So much just by blending 2 mics on there, but the cab block also gives you a master EQ, some preamp options if you want to add some drive and saturation. There's everything from tube style, transformer style, tape style saturation and drive in there through to vintage and modern types. There's also a room simulation, much like the cab block on the Fractal hardware products, and an align tab. So if you want to either auto align your cabs and have them nicely phase locked, or you want to take that off and play around with phase offsets on there, you can do that as well. It's essentially an entire cab miking workflow baked into one block. The block letter lead has essentially become the archetypal high gain modern rock and metal guitar sound. With a guitar like my Les Paul, I don't really need any boost going into it. Gain at noon, crank up the bass, treble and depth, and bring the mids and presence down a little bit, and you get this. If you're using a darker guitar or you're in a lower tuning, the time-honored tradition is to boost the front end of a 5150 with something like a tube screamer or an EQ. Now you can use the Amp Block Expert Edit tab to do this. There are several input boost types, and these are set up essentially as EQ curves from pedals. You know, when you take a tube screamer and you turn the drive all the way down, crank up the tone and the level, you're essentially using it as a filter or an EQ. That's what all of these do. One great one is the grinder boost based on the Fortin grind. So we'll hear it without on my chillier, and then we'll kick it in and it will tighten everything up. Some of these other boost types a little later in the video, but we can of course use the drive block. The Maxoff 808 is going to be an absolute classic for this. preamp and the precision drive are going to be absolutely savage with these amps as well. And you do have the option to add a side-chained gate anywhere you like in the chain. I've placed it after the amp but before the cab, and I've set the source to plug-in input rather than block input. With the attack, hold and release really low, you can do this. That's super tight. It still feels really natural, and I'm playing this on a semi-hollow guitar that is very light and resonant. If you were using a more modern set of pickups or a fully solid body guitar, I'd say you could get that even tighter. We have to hear this 100 watt Plexi, and I love that they've got the Variac exposed on here. You can also dive into the Expert tab and add an input boost, play around with advanced parameters like the bias, negative feedback, bright cap value transformer matching, and the saturation switch, which will do a virtual Jose mod to your amp. Let's just hear this at the stock settings with the Les Paul. I'm going to dial it in really quickly. It's awesome not only having a great sounding stock Plexi model, but having those Expert tab parameters so you can apply your own virtual mods, and then the phaser, flanger, graphic EQ drives, which we'll hear more of in just a little bit, and options like delay, chorus, and pitch detune. You can really go to town starting off with, I guess, a classic stock amp and then totally customizing it to your own needs and specifications. Let's hear a couple more models in here. The 5153 Stealth models are amazing if you like your tight chugga chugga. This is the red channel. In addition to the plethora of 5150 models and that awesome sounding Plexi, there's also several FAS original amps. There's the FAS Brown, 6160, and my personal favorite, the FAS Stealth Blue. I've been using this in my Fractal hardware modelers for a couple of years now, and I love that I can recreate those rigs in software now. You can see these settings in the Basic tab. I have made one tweak in the Expert tab. I've engaged the input boost. It's on the CC boost, 9 dBs of gain, my usual cab IR. I've added a little bit of tape drive and saturation in here, and I'm using the large plate reverb with quite a low mix and the time at 1.5 seconds. Let's have a listen to this one on my Chillia in drop C. absolutely cooking. Let's add some stereo width to that using the pitch block. The dual detune settings at the defaults are pretty much perfect for me. I just like to bring the mix down a touch. We'll take it to 30% and have a listen. Wanted to go over the top with that stereo widening effect, you could add the dimension chorus and run it into the pitch block. So we'll go with the high dimension mode. I'm going to bring the mix down to 25% over here. Let's have a listen to how much girth this adds. Bypass the chorus for now, but I'm going to leave it in the preset just in case I want that extra grease. I'm going to add a delay after the pitch block over here. And if you want some great sounding stereo dual delays, take one of these stereo delay types like the analog stereo. I'm going to set the tempo to a quarter note so that it's in time with the tempo of the session. And then I'm going to adjust the left-right time ratio. Let's go to 75%. This is going to give me a lovely offset dual delay. I might add a little bit of modulation, so we'll bring the depth up over here as well. Everything else I really like at the stock settings. Advantage of this being a plugin is instant recall, and it's going to make reamping really easy, particularly for double or quad tracked guitars like we heard in that intro track. I also love that I've got the Fractal pitch block and some of those delays available in here. And I actually recently mixed a Ragdoll live album where we didn't have a clean DI guitar. I'd used my AM4, but I'd use it in monos. So what I did was I took the Pasadena plugin and I bypassed everything except the pitch block and chucked on those pitch detune settings, because that's what I would use in something like the FM3, the FM9, or the Axe FX3. And I was able to add it flawlessly to those guitar tracks using Pasadena as an effects only loader. To use this plugin exclusively for riotous high gain. The Plexi models with a Strat can give you stuff like the old school deep purple and rainbow tones. Your Strat on the neck, pick up, dial up a fuzz phase, crank up the rate on one of the phaser models and add a bit of stereo delay and a nice big chamber reverb. You get a Trower sound. Having these incredible fractal time-based effects means you can get some super lush clean tones on here. This is my take on an 80s style clean. Without an amp block, what I'm doing is I'm running a graphic EQ to pull out a lot of low end and boost the high end. That's running into the classic VCA comp. I do have a cab block in here, but I'm just using it for this transformer style preamp and a bit of a high cut. We of course have the dimension chorus, some dual Detune, and then I've got the deep chamber reverb. Let's hear this on the neck and middle position of this Strat. FAS Brown is another killer sounding Fractal original. I've just turned the gain up from the stock settings, my free IR, plate reverb. Variac down if you want a bit more squish out of it. I like to make in the expert section are to bring the saturation switch on. This is going to apply a virtual Jose mod to the amp, maybe a little bit of a boost from the CC boost, and generally for these sort of sounds, I like to bring the negative feedback down. A good rule of thumb is just halve the default value on here. Again, you want some stereo width, add a bit of Detune on there, you know, chuck a phaser up front. It doesn't have to be hard to get these iconic rock tones happening. So satisfying to play. If you wanted some of those Eddie style SDE delays, try the digital stereo high cut at 8 kilohertz. You don't need much mix on there, but bring the left right time ratio to just above or just below 50%. A really fun drive to pair with this amp is the DS1 model. Just keep the tone really low, a little bit of distortion and plenty of level, and this will smooth out your tone. It's perfect if you want to go from that really tight, crunchy rhythm tone to a much thicker, smoother lead tone. You've also also got the clean and crunch channels from various models. Let's hear the 6160 Plus crunch as is. This is a great one if you want to run drive pedals into it, particularly fuzzes. Thanks so much for taking the time to check out the video. I really hope you enjoyed the tones and the overview of Icons Pasadena. You can learn more at the Fractal Audio website. And if you want to support what I'm doing directly, there's links to my Patreon and the music that I make with Ragdoll in the video description. Go and grab your guitars, make some very loud guitar noises, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.